Tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Good morning, Swarm, and welcome to Tinfoil Hat. You know I am. You know I'm here too. I'm here too. Rah! Join me as always, Xavier Guerrero, and on the ones and twos, Jay Nice, Juicy Johnny, la. Oh, Johnny Woodard. There we go, Johnny Woodard. I forgot to say your whole name, Juicy Johnny. Johnny Woodard, everybody. There we go. Live from the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver Studios, adjacent. That's right, Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. Precious metals sent right to your house for as little as $50 a month. Just go to SamTripoli.gold and get in on the Wolfpack action. Guys, we have a great episode for you today. We got Brett Pike. It was a wonderful episode, and I hope you guys enjoy it. If you want to see me live, go to SamTripoli.com. I have Long Beach was last night. Then I have a really great Comedy Chaos coming up on September 10th. That will be up on the website. And then I got, looks like Louisville is being set up as we speak. So that should happen soon as well. And then I will be at Skankfest as well. That's not on there. So a lot of great things going on. And yeah, just go to samtripoli.com and grab those dates. And it looks like Quiet is done. We're just trying to pick the best time to drop it. There's going to be a pay-per-view just so you guys can see it on the premium content. Then I'll drop it everywhere else. So nice. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get into the show. Let's get into this episode with Brett Pike. All right, so let's get into it. Very excited to have this guest on. He's one of the best content creators on Twitter. He's a great disseminator of information. It's very tight, compact, and to the point. And I think he's great. He is the founder of the Classic Learning Homeschool Company, the Schools Connected Curriculum, Classic Learner Publishing, and author of the Cubs to Bears books. Please welcome to the show for the first time, hopefully a bunch of times, Brett Pike. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Brett, I'm very excited to have you on. I love your videos. I wanted to make an apology to you. Yesterday, I decided to make a list of like all the content creators I liked, and then everybody just kept suggesting everybody. So it became this giant list, and I realized that I didn't put you on the list. So I want to make amends to you on that because I think you're a great content creator. Like I really love everything you're doing. The way you just get information across to people. I think we're in a wonderful phase of entertainment and disseminating information, and you do it in a great job. So I'm super thankful, and I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, it's a great time to be, and it looks like the free speech is opening up just a little bit right now, and it's a really good time to be a content creator.
So, Brett, for those who may not be familiar with you and your what you're doing, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
Yeah, I am the founder of the Classical Learner Homeschooling Company, and I was a teacher, came through the system, didn't like what I saw, and I said, you know what, fuck it, we can do it better, and we've been doing it better, and we're teaching our kids the things that matter, like the Bill of Rights, what happened with the American Revolution, real civics, which is a crazy concept, like how do you actually defend your rights? So classicallearner.com, you can find all my stuff. I'm also the founder of a publishing house, Classical Learner Publishing, so we could get into that, but it's a really good time in fact, it's the best time ever to have kids right now, because with the internet, with the laws how they are right now, there is no reason to let a pink-haired communist educate your kids when you can do it so much better yourself.
So do you write all those books?
Yes, I am the author of the Cubs to Bears children book series, something I started doing a few years ago. Books on free speech, the right to bear arms, the core things that our children should know. And our other project that I'm doing through Classical Learner Publishing is we have been taking books that are hundreds of years old, turning them into audiobooks and bringing back that lost history that's not politically correct, and it's what our kids should be learning.
Dude, you're going pretty deep with these kids' books. You got Jekyll Island.
I
We got
love it, dude.
The Bear from
Yeah.
Jekyll Island, which is a tribute to G. Edward Griffin,
That's great.
and it was pretty cool when he tweeted that out, because I was like, you write a book as a tribute to someone, they tweet it out. So teaching our kids the core things they need to learn, like the Fed, from a very young age. So by the time they get to high school or adults, you don't have to wake them up because they never went to sleep in the first place.
I think I'm gonna start buying some books for my kids. What ages are they geared towards?
Yeah, they're really kindergarten through middle school. They're written very simply, but they carry a very complex message. And the cool thing is parents will pick up on stuff right away, but as the kids get older, they actually pick up on more and more in the book, the subtleties of, oh, that's what that was a reference to. And it gives them a framework. When you study for a test, right, they say, oh, relate the science to the WWE or the NFL or something about, and that will help you remember it. Well, what we're doing with these books is we're giving children a framework. So when they get older and they start to study the things that really matter, like how the news media functions from a systems level or how BlackRock functions from a systems level, they have a framework that they could relate back to and say, oh, okay, I have seen this before, and they could understand it much more quickly.
I love that. When I started comedy, I would do dirty jokes. I do political jokes, but break them down to dirty jokes so that people could understand what I was talking about. And it was funny because nobody got it except for one comic. And he had to explain to everybody what I was doing because I think it's great. I think what you're doing is great. I think it's very important. I think parents are spread really thin now today, and they have a lot of guilt about that. And they just don't, parents want to do the best that they can, and they just don't know where to go to get it. And I bet you if you told a parent, hey, man, we got this great book, you can teach your kindergartner about the Fed, they'd be like, why do I want to teach them about that? And it's like, because they got to learn it now. So when they grow up, they can see it coming. They can understand, because I really do believe that right now in our society, in our culture, in our country, they are in fact saturating us with useless knowledge that will just drowns us in stuff that's not important. So we aren't smart enough or healthy enough to participate in our own government. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I always tell people I would let a drunk monkey educate my kids before I sent them to public school. At least a drunk monkey will teach them how to climb a tree. I mean, you send them to these public schools, it's a nightmare. I get the calls from these parents, and people think this is like people make this stuff. I really get these calls from the parents, and they vent to me their horror stories. And I've had parents call me and tell me that there's cat litter in the bathroom at the school because a child identifies as a cat, and the school, they reaffirm that. And of course, they're telling the kids all these other things, and it's not a good culture. It's not the type of culture you want your kids to grow up in. And then you have these like drones who they're like, yeah, well, you can't protect your kids from things. You can't hide them from the world. I was like, to an extent, but I certainly wouldn't let them hang around a bunch of crackheads, right? They're going to be exposed to drugs one day, but that doesn't mean I have to offer them cocaine. And we as parents could take it on ourselves to make sure that we shelter our children to an appropriate degree, and then we can get them around the other families that share our values. And then this way, they don't turn 18 years old, dye their hair pink, tell you they're a boy now or a girl now, and embrace communism. You actually get to keep your little baby, and they grow up to be the person you envision them being. And every parent can do that. Literally 3.7 million homeschoolers in America right now. It is the fastest growing grassroots freedom movement in modern American history.
Yeah. If you're in denial about that, can I just say there's a reason that every other Hollywood actor, their kid is coming out like you're talking about, transitioning. And I mean, think of it. It's so prevalent out here. And back where I'm from, you see it where people homeschool their kids or still go to, schools that haven't completely gone bananas. You don't see it. I mean, it's so rare. It's rare as hen's teeth to see that.
Oh yeah, you have some like Megan Fox having like 3 trans kids. The odds on that
yeah. I mean,
is
it's
like winning the lottery while you get hit by lightning and an asteroid just hitting you right in the head. It's impossible, and it's just what happens is when, and we've said this before on the show, but it's like when you get to a society that is functioning in a way that wealth is being distributed and everybody's doing well, your parents are doing well, they're living the American dream. Well, the kids grow up and they just kind of don't have any needs. They're like their clothes, their food, their clothing, their shelter is all taken care of. So the final thing you need, which is, we talked about this, is purpose. And they need purpose, and they just start to like just drift into craziness, and they start finding things in which there are no goalposts or goal lines. You're never really going to solve it, but it always give you something to fight for: climate change, ending racism, ending homophobia. And this stuff becomes bigger than actual on the ground problems: crime, soaring prices of everything, the illegal immigration everywhere. All this stuff becomes secondary to the thought of hate, the thought of global warming, because they've been allowed to kind of fantasize about this. Progressivism is privilege. To want to create a world, an idealistic world, is privilege. And that's what we're battling here. And I just see it in LA right now and in California. I'm not even joking when I say, dude, like, get rid of California having any senators. We should have no voting at all in federal government in any way. Johnny, and actually, have you seen this, that the government has, in fact, California's passed a rule that gives $150,000 to illegals to buy houses?
But how does that even make sense? The state. But like, how do you apply if you don't even have a license? Like,
wait, how do you apply to this?
Are you asking for a friend?
I'm asking so I don't have to live in this apartment.
Suddenly, XG is really illegal, deeply illegal. Yeah, so that's what we're getting into, right? I mean, where do you think it all starts from, Brett? Where do you think the nexus?
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Can I just say it's loans for illegal immigrants, and they're close to passing it, according to Fox News.
Yeah, I mean, it starts from how we're raised as children, right? And this goes back to like Gloria Steinem and the CIA back in the 50s, right? And they started this process of trying to get mothers out of the home. And the goal of that was really to get the mothers and the fathers away from their children and get all of the children into state education, which is the government schooling system. And I forget who says it, but there's a famous quote: give me a child for their first 7 years, and I'll tell you what type of adult they're going to be. Well, the institutions that are doing MK Ultra, that are studying mind control, they know this stuff, and they want to get the children to the state as quickly as possible. And when you do that, you can really shape not just what they think, but how they think. And the majority of people, unfortunately, because of education, because how it's structured, are reactive thinkers rather than systems thinkers. And you hear about that problem, reaction, solution with the Hegelian dialectic, but let me give you an example. You brought up California. Well, Gavin Newsom recently signed legislation which mandated media literacy be taught to school children in California. Now, what does he mean by media literacy? The way they teach it is that you look for reputable sources. So you look at information, you say, does the New York Times report it? Okay, they're reputable. This must be true.
Oh my God.
Now, cross-reference that. Does the Washington Post also report it? They do. All right, we cross-reference it to reputable sources. That's authority. Now it must be true. The lesson is that truth comes from authority. Now, let me contrast that with how I teach media literacy, how children should learn media literacy. I write 2 fake newspapers, and the children read the newspapers, and then we have a sheet that has the logical fallacies. And they go over each line in the newspaper, and they look for logical fallacies. Are there any appeals to authority here? Are there any appeals to ad hominem attacks, straw man arguments? So they go through this, and then they have to evaluate where all the claims in the paper are coming from. So They'll evaluate each claim made by the newspaper, and then I have all of these also fake primary and secondary documents, cartoons, primary and secondary documents that they have to get back to, and they have to identify where the information came from. They have to, was it primary, was it secondary, and then they have to evaluate the source.
Dang.
And what they do is they fill out a discernment chart. It has 3 categories: I know and how I know, I think I know and why I think that, I heard and where I can look. And what we're doing is we're actually training them to evaluate the validity of information. And this is the most important part, to be the judge of that information for themselves. And you really see the split in what's happening in our education system, where you have the people sending their kids to Gavin Newsom and they're being taught to be reactive thinkers, versus the people who are taking control of their children's education. And I mean, give it 18 years. What will be the difference between those 2 groups of kids?
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible, because if you kind of watch right now, everything's reactive. That is the purpose of political correctness, is to get you not to think and just emotional reactions. And you see it in LA comedy right now. Certain words, if you say certain words, they shut down. They don't even listen to what you're talking about. Now, I am talking shit, but they don't even want to listen to it and hear what I have to say. And to me, that's insanity, dude. And that's what you want. You want an emotional population. You don't want critical thinking. And what's crazy to me, though, is that the people that seem to be falling for everything are what we call the highly intelligent, highly educated people. They're always on the wrong side of every psyop. It's super interesting to me, the difference between intelligent and smart, and you have all these intelligent people who could, who, like, some of their vocabulary is like insane, and just they couldn't tell you how the world works to save their life. They have no clue. They got trans kids lives matter bumper stickers. I mean, it's like so crazy to me, right? Like, and they just are emotional monkeys, because what also happens is the other side is all about conformity and groupthink. And if you don't conform and you don't basically virtue signal your support for this absolutely ridiculous idea that's just ideology and just ridiculous ideas, then you're blackballed. You're shunned. You're not allowed to function in that industry at all. And this is why Hollywood's dying.
I laugh. I always tell people the best thing I ever did was not take school seriously, because you really do see it. The people that really take the system seriously, by the time they get out, they're so indoctrinated. They've been so trained to outsource their thinking to authority that they can't even fathom the idea that authority might be for sale, that authority could be hijacked. But for me, as someone who went through an awakening and I'm a historian, I mean, you look at this stuff, there's an entire history to how authority was hijacked, a history to how they rewrote history, a history to how they took over the medical system. And you can trace all this stuff back, but when you try to tell people who came through the system, say, hey, look at this, they don't even want to look at it, because that's the function of it. There's a book by John Taylor Gatto, Dumbing Us Down. And the primary message of the book is the number one lesson taught in the school system is that truth comes from authority.
Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you about our boy James McMahon and Copy My Crypto. Listen, guys, has it pissed you off to watch crypto fly up in prices for a decade and you still have done nothing about it? It makes sense. Crypto's complicated and really boring. Well, here's the good news. You don't need to know a thing about crypto to make money like so many have. The CopyMyCrypto.com membership site shows you the exact cryptos that YouTuber James McMahon personally owns, which means you just got to copy him. It's like having a big brother who knows what he's doing. You don't need to know a thing about crypto or how to invest. Just simply copy along. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about James. He runs the Crypto with James YouTube channel, which has over 54,000 subscribers. In the summer of 2020, he told his viewers to buy 26 cryptos. Had you put $100 into each, it went on to be well worth $123,000. Of the 26 cryptos, his top pick of the year, the one he singled out called Phantom, went up 692 times from when he said to buy it, okay? That one call alone has retired a number of people, including guys in the 20s and 30s. Remember, this is public knowledge. You can go to YouTube and verify for yourself. So if you'd like to join the 2,800 members who have copied James, then pause what you're doing and head over to copymycrypto.com/TFH. That's copymycrypto.com/TFH. That's TFH. You'll not only find proof of everything I said, but my viewers will get a full access for just $1. Yes, you've missed out on Bitcoin, but there's over 2 million other cryptos. Do you really think you've missed out on all of it? Guys, don't waste your time. Go to the site and read it. Once again, that's copymycrypto.com/TFH. Guys, it's ended money worries for so many. It may just do the same for you. Copymycrypto.com/TFH.
You talk about there's like the system. You think there's any good in the system, as in like maybe when you go in your high school years, you get to interact with people, you play the sports. You don't think that at any point the kids should be in school? Because that's what most people talk about. Oh, they become weirdos. If they don't go to school, they don't know how to interact, which I disagree. I think if you put them in sports, you make them go out, you can get them interactive. But
Yeah, but I think you have a miss. Oh, Brett, why don't you comment on that? Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's funny because homeschool gets that rap, but you know, one of the primary reasons I want to homeschool is because I'm worried about the socialization in public school. Like, I mean, you have these kids at a very young age doing drugs. I mean, when I was a teacher in school, we got called to a meeting and we're told that 2 of the 9th graders were suspended because they had filmed pornography in the locker room, right? So, I mean, this is what you get in the public school system. And, you know, in terms of all those other experiences, you can get it outside. I mean, for example, I homeschool my kids, but 2 days a week, they go to a nature school. It's all outside. It's completely in nature. They're with 50 other classmates, and they're doing all the things that you would do in school, but it's just, you know, with people that I'm comfortable teaching them. And it's really easy to get your kids into co-ops. It's really easy. There's 3.7 million homeschoolers. They're everywhere. So in most states, you still have them on the public school sporting teams if you want. So it's really not hard to get your kids that exposure. But with public school, you get everything else. And it's all the other influences that, you know, I remember when I was because I came through public school, and I remember like I hung out with some bad crowds, and I remember my mom used to beg me. She's like, Brett, please don't hang out with these people. And I didn't listen to her. But around the time I was 19 years old, I went away to college, and I came back, and I was like, you know, there was a fight and stuff, like, you know, could have went bad. But I was like, you know what, maybe my mom's right. Maybe I need to distance myself from this crowd. And the very people that she was like, Brett, don't hang out with them. Don't hang out with them. I look back now and they're dead. And I say,
Dang.
yeah. So I say, mom was right. And mom was clearly right. And, but that could have went a different way. Right. And for a lot of people, for my friends, it did. And that's because they came through that system, and those were the influences they were around. And, you know, I'm very thankful that I, you know, had the, at least a little bit of wisdom at that time to listen to my mother eventually. But, you know, that's really what you're getting from the system. And I think we all have stories probably similar to that.
Now, where do you think the destruction of the public education system, where does it change, in your opinion?
Where does it change? I mean,
Where does it start? What did we have an education system that was thriving, and then it just went bad? What are your thoughts?
Well, here's what I could say. I'm a historian. It's what I do. So you have, in the early 1900s, you had Rockefeller, right? And he decided he wanted to take over the education system. So he starts looking around, And he says, where can we come up with a system that really achieves our goals, which is basically to make people stop questioning me and just be good employees. And he comes across this system in Prussia, which was developed after Napoleon beat Prussia in a war. And they pulled in the top social engineers of the day and they said, what can we do to make sure that our soldiers are more obedient? Because they literally turned around and ran away from Napoleon. And they had these social engineers and they came up with this system. They said, all right, we're going to do a state curriculum. We're going to make teachers get state certification. It's going to be 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. There's going to be 45-minute blocks, bells, and they're going to have to raise their hand to go to the bathroom. This is the early 1800s, 100 years earlier. They start that in Prussia. Rockefeller comes across that, and he says, this is great. His foundation puts $180 million into the General Education Board.
Back then, 180 mil. Imagine how much it would be today.
A lot of money. Yeah, a lot of money. So they give out $10,000 grants, a lot of money at the time. Any school district, all you have to do is accept our curriculum, you get 10 grand. A lot of money. So district after district starts taking on this curriculum. And of course, they're framing it. They're saying you're getting this modern, state-of-the-art, scientific curriculum, right? And you're getting these 10 grand. You could build a school. And this is how it starts to spread. Now, that's just one side of this. Then, all right, in the 1950s, you have this guy, Norman Dodd. He was on the Congressional Reese Committee. So they're looking into these tax-exempt foundations, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Carnegie Endowment, and they want to know, are they using their tax-exempt money to promote communism? What they found was a lot more sinister. He gets access to the paperwork of the Rockefeller Foundation, the Carnegie Endowment, right? And he's in disbelief. Around 1920, they get together and they say, we need to fundamentally alter Americans' understanding of history. Well, how do you do that?
Wow.
First thing they do is they go to the top historians of the day and they try to buy him off and they get rebuffed. They had integrity. They said, no problem. The foundation's handpicked 20 college students from throughout the country. Wow. They gave them $400,000 in college grants. 10 years later, those college students make up the governing board of the American Historical Association, right? This according to Norman Dodd, who was running the investigation. They make up the governing board of the American Historical Association. Well, what did they do historically? They created the curriculum for college and high school history education and what went in to history textbooks.
Oh my God. What year is this?
This started in the 1920s. So,
okay. So now we have the Fed, which has been enacted around 1913. And the reason this is important to this study is because, it's so funny, Castro, and I forgot who was talking about this a long time ago. Not that I'm a Castro fan at all, but he basically called it. And he was like, the Fed allows them to print fake money, which they can use to bribe everybody. So all this money, the $10,000 are given to these counties, the $400,000 that they're given to these students, it's just Fed funny money at this point. They can just take it and hand it out, and it's all fake, and everybody's selling their soul for this Fed money. Dude, that is nuts. That is nuts. They completely changed what history was. And that, to me, is cultural Marxism. That's what we've been battling. It's all the way back to 1920s it was happening. That's absolutely insanity.
Yeah, and the craziest part is it's a fingerprint. Like, it's a modus operatus. They do this time and time again. So when they wanted to take over the medical system, they did the same thing to hijack authority. So in 1908, they funded the Carnegie Endowment in partnership with the Rockefeller Foundation and the American Medical Association funded the Flexner Report. So they write up this report, and it basically says that all non-pill-based medicine is nonsense.
Yes, dude.
Homeopathy, naturopathy. The Rockefeller Foundation takes this report, brings it in front of the state licensing boards all over America. And the licensing boards put the American Medical Association in charge of college accreditation status. That's your funding. That's everything. Within 20 years, half of the medical schools in the United States of America had shut down. and only pill-based medicine was being taught. And that's how you get what happened with COVID and why the medical industry was so detached from natural forms of taking care of your body.
Yeah, I talked about murder by injection, and this was a different time. This was 2 years ago, only 2 years ago, on Joe Rogan, and of course, you go to the author's Wikipedia page, and what does it say? Anti-Semitic, and that's done on purpose so that nobody actually reads any farther. They put these buzzwords, and I basically told them, dude, they completely bought off everybody with this fake Fed funny money, and they basically got rid of all holistic medicine, and went all petroleum oil based uh, medicine, and it's done slowly, systematically, so you don't know what they're doing. You can't actually see it. And just think about back then, there was no internet where people could like, hey, dude, you just said this, now you did this. And there wasn't this kind of connection where all of us could talk and I could be following you, Brett, on the internet and all the wonderful stuff you're putting out. And I get a little piece of the information, a little piece of the puzzle here, a little piece of the puzzle there to realize what's going on. This was all done in broad daylight.
Let's not forget about the food industry. Same thing. Bought out doctors, bought out everybody to let us know that the sugar was good, breakfast was needed, 3 meals a day, blah blah blah. The food pyramid, same thing.
Well, I
And
mean,
that's because we didn't have the internet. Yeah.
Again, AIDS is making a big comeback now because of monkeypox. Everyone's talking about AIDS, and I just go prove it exists. AIDS, autoimmune deficiency does exist. That means your immune system's shot. But prove to me HIV exists.
My favorite part of that, by the way, is that they're calling it M-pox now because monkeypox sounds too, it sounds kind of fun, Like
Yeah.
everybody loves a monkey, who doesn't like a monkey? But so that everywhere now, it's like M-pox is coming for you.
Sounds like Xbox, Mpox.
Yeah.
And it's
like
kind of racy. It's kind of racy.
Yeah.
You guys keep going. I'm just going to shut these doors.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, you see that right now. It's like you go back and Jamie Deluxe, if you ever want to get a real good breakdown of that, Jamie Deluxe has some great movies about it, about how they basically said that they proved that they isolated and they proved HIV exists through basically circumstantial evidence. And everybody just ran with it. And this whole industry is built on just this illusion, this shadow in the cave of medicine built. I mean, when you go to Canada, guys, I'm not lying to you. I'm not saying Canada's perfect right now. I love Canadians. They're great people. They got great sense of comedy. Toronto comedy is on fire right now. There are no rules at the Toronto comedy scene. You can say whatever you want. I mean, literally whatever you want. At the shows I went to, at least, they were great. And so, but you go up there, man, you look at the people in Canada, they are incredibly healthy compared to Americans. Their skin is healthier. They look healthier because their whole health system is built on keeping prices down. Now, I'm not saying there hasn't been a giant surge in everything up there, of course, because, Trudeau's just trying to screw them and just put the screws to them. But man, their skin's healthier. They look healthier. It's what happens when your healthcare is built on keeping prices down and your government doesn't spend 50 cents of every dollar on the military industrial complex. Then you come down to America, totally different. Everything's fast food, processed food, all that stuff. Because again, going back to what Brett's been talking about here, is they want you too dumb and fat to participate in your government. That's what they want. They don't want thinkers. They don't want critical thinkers. They want useless eaters. That's what they're doing right now on a very large scale. And it's incredible to me. So if you go back to the earliest points of health, I mean, they've been manipulating us since the jump. It's crazy, right?
Yeah, but the best part is once you're awake to it, any parent could teach their child about healthy living, because I always tell people you could hold your breath waiting for the FDA or anyone else to fix what's going on with the food system. And everyone gets excited when the politicians talk, but there's nothing stopping parents from teaching their kids from a young age how to live a healthy life. And one of the things we do, one of my favorite projects that any parent can do is you put a sheet on the fridge, and once a month, so you don't have to do this for 12 times for an entire year. It'll change your child's life. Once a month, take them to the grocery store and pick a random ingredient on the back of a food box. Ideally, the cereal aisle, because that has all the cartoons and the child friendly stuff. So you have them pick a random ingredient on the back of that box, and then you go home and you look up that ingredient plus the side effects. And you write the ingredient down and you write the side effects down, and then you keep that on the fridge. And all year, they see those ingredients. And you do that the 1 year, and now they know why you're so serious about processed foods. And then, of course, comes the other side of that, which is teaching them how to shop organic, how to shop non-GMO, how to read the ingredient labels so that they could actually make smart consumer choices. They could buy stuff that nourishes their body instead of stuff that breaks their body down. And of course, especially with young kids, because they love this. I mean, anyone who's had kids knows they love to help in the kitchen. So you could get them, you could have them, dicing up the onions, getting everything set, helping you cook. And you do this from a young age, and then healthy living just kind of becomes a culture so that it's not something that's scary. It's not something that they're ignorant to. It's just something they know how to do throughout their life. And that doesn't mean your kid never has a Kit Kat, because you don't want to do that either, because, if you tell kids no too much, then it might become something that they seek out. But you could set boundaries within your home. Say, we don't keep that stuff in our home. Every now and then you're out with your friends, you want to have a Kit Kat, go for it, right? That's what I do. But you want them to have a culture of healthy living so that they know, and by the time they're 20, 25, 30, and they want to live a healthy life, they have the knowledge, the culture, and the example from you of how to go about doing that.
It's unbelievable, dude. It's unbelievable. That's what they say. Knowledge is power, right? I mean, that's the key to everything. If you know, and what some people, not the people listening to the show, obviously, but the people outside the show will listen to this and feel overwhelmed. Like it's so much. And it's like, I don't think it is, man. I think you just got to start somewhere and keep it simple and go from there, right? I mean, when people go, is everything a conspiracy? Yes, everything is a conspiracy. It's been that way forever. You've just been comfortably numb to it forever. And that you just are now waking up to what's going on. And it's getting so bad because they've been able to get away with so much stuff for so long that's getting into like bizarre levels of ridiculous. I mean, this election right now is so insane. It's so pro wrestling nuts. I'm mind blown by it. Even whatever you want to say about Trump, and we've been critical of Trump on the show for sure, but even like RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard coming over is like a main event in WWF's WrestleMania. It's like all of a sudden, like Trump's in the ring and he's down and out. And then who comes from the outside? Oh my God, it's RFK. Oh my God, it's Tulsi Gabbard. And they just start beating the crap out of all the lizard people. And we're like, yeah. It plays like that, just like that. It's just, and we just eat it up. But even though
now that you say it like that, I'm literally looking at it exactly like that. And it's not over. There's probably, they got one more card up their sleeves.
Bro, it's almost September. Right. We have 2 months. This is it. The 2 months is where the chaos breaks out. And
they're debating, right?
We'll see. I mean, like, dude, she's doing interviews with her vice president has to be there.
Yeah,
like,
isn't that bizarre? Because she's gotten so much criticism for not having a debate or not having an interview on her own. And now the first one she does, she has to have him there to hold her hand. It doesn't make any sense.
It does make sense if you're trying to demoralize people.
I guess. I mean, like, yeah. And what's demoralizing about it? Because to me, seeing her be a dipshit doesn't demoralize me. But I guess it's people who support her, right? Who have to. They're like, this is the best we could do. Is that the demoralizing?
Yeah. And then let's say she gets in. We realize we have an absolute retard.
Yeah.
In the White House. That's like that person's gonna go talk to Putin. That person's gonna go talk to China. Really? Do you want the cackler to go talk to China?
And then the other guy's doing like a podcast tour and stuff. He's hitting all of them.
Yeah, I mean, he's just way smarter on how he does it. All right, guys, real quick, I want to tell you about our friends at Hims. Listen, all of us men are constantly worried about hair loss. I know I am. I know these guys are. So listen, you got to be on the offensive. You have to attack. So let me tell you about Hims. Men, when we leave the house, it's phone, wallet, keys, and how does our hair look? Okay. But if you're experiencing hair loss, you may not be that confident when you step outside your door. It's time to get that confidence back and restore your hair with Hims. Okay.
Hims provides access to a range of hair loss treatments that work all from the comfort of your couch. Hims makes treating hair loss simple with doctor-trusted treatment options and clinically proven ingredients like finasteride and minoxidil that can regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. They offer personalized, chewable, oral, spray, and serum treatment options so you can find what works best for you. The process is simple and 100% online. Just answer a few questions and a medical provider will determine the treatment that's right for you. If prescribed, your treatment is sent directly to your door. Hims has hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, so if you feel like you're losing a part of yourself with your hair loss, get Hims and get your confidence back.
It's really simple. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/tinfoil hat. That's HIMS.com/tinfoil hat for your personalized hair loss treatment options. Okay, that's hims.com/tinfoil.
Results vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information.
Any thoughts on any of this, Brett?
Yeah, I do think there's an aspect of that, and it really would be demoralizing to a lot of right-wing America for Trump, who's really, in terms of right-wing politics, is, at least in my lifetime, the most popular, just populist candidate that has ever been on the stage. And, they beat him with a brain dead. Biden was brain dead 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. And that alone is a little demoralizing because it's like, wait a second, we had our guy who's as popular as anyone's ever been, and he gets beat by this, walking shell of a human being. And then Kamala Harris, who, she couldn't get 3% of the vote in the Democratic primary. She's a very unpopular person. But the only reason it would be demoralizing, and this is really the heart of my message, and I don't just talk this stuff, I live it. Like, I homestead, I grow my own food, I'm really devoted husband, I have my children, we homeschool. I started a publishing house. We print our own books so that we're not reliant on Amazon. We're restoring history. A homeschool company that I built up from the grassroots level with no bank debt. And I hire good American people. Like, my employees are Americans. I know their families. They're really good people. And I'll never make them wear a mask. I'll never make them get a shot. And that's where your power comes from. So we've been so trained as a society to say, I need Trump, I need RFK, it doesn't matter, and any politician to come in and save us. And by doing that, we're kind of tacitly agreeing that we've given them our power. But your real power comes from the manner through which you live your life. And the less in debt we are, the less dependent we are, the more we have control over our food system, right? In 2020, people couldn't effectively boycott Trader Joe's. So how can you tell the government to do anything when you can't even effectively boycott the grocery store? Well, you might not be able to grow food. Not everyone can. But what you can do is know a local farmer and then get the food directly from them. And then what that does is it creates a circuit. So when you spend that money at Walmart, that money goes out of your town. It's gone. It's going to corporate. But when you spend that money at a local garden center, a local farmer, that money it stays in the town. It starts to circulate and you become more and more powerful. And the more people that realize this, that their power comes from personal responsibility, the more powerful we as a nation will become. And a crazy thing happens when you get more powerful. We really do live in a nation that requires the consent of the governed. It's why they try so hard with the psychological operations. They
Yeah.
need our consent because
Yes.
after a certain point, you don't have consent, the whole thing is going to crumble.
Yes.
Well, you get to a certain point where your nation's strong enough, they'll actually start to placate to that and say, okay, well, what do you people want? But right now, when everyone's dependent, they're going to say, what does Goldman Sachs want? Because that's who their master is right now.
No, I totally agree. And I think people are waking up to it more and more and more and more. I think, you've had these kind of neoliberals who just ran amok before the internet, and they keep trying to use all the old playbooks, and they're not working. And people are waking up more and more and more. And I think some people are waking up to that. Yeah, maybe our past wasn't perfect, but shouldn't define our future. And you just have a bunch of rich. I'm sorry, dude. Like my goal, I think everybody's goal is to provide for their family so their children have everything they need to grow up, and which is a wonderful goal to have. But there's also some danger in that too. When you raise kids who have everything they could ever want and have no need, again, we start getting into these things where they start to wander into places where they start chasing, fighting windmills of trans rights and global warming and racism and sexism and homophobia. You know, and we have a real problem with that. That becomes a real issue. And I'm sorry, I'm not, if you've done well and you have kids, I'm not necessarily talking about your children, but what I am talking about is there's real, like, I think these rich kids are domestic terrorists, in a weird way. They tend to fill Antifa up. The Antifa people tend to be rich kids. They always find them, pictures of them. They break down their outfits. It's $500 jackets, $300 pants, $200 shoes, $300 shoes. And it's like you get into Dave Grohl, who like is like all butthurt that Trump used his song to have RFK come out, RFK Jr. And it's like hilarious because, Dave Grohl's dad was Ronald Reagan's speechwriter, and nobody knew that up until recently. So it's like super duper hypocrisy going on there. And you have to really watch yourself with that. You have to give your kids purpose, in my humble opinion. Or the government will, or the schools will, or their peers will. You have to really focus and give them a purpose. Always be talking to them. Always be, you have to have that connection with your kids. And kids get older, they think their parents are like uncool, but you still got to have that connection. That's what I think. We are in a full on Bolshevik revolution, in my humble opinion. You have any thoughts on that, Brett?
Yeah, well, the snake eats itself. And I recently spoke with a friend of mine who had married very well, and he's in Manhattan and was sending his kid to a $65,000 a year private school. And mind you, this is kindergarten. So you can imagine they've done very well, but he's in Manhattan and they're going to this $65,000 a year private school. And he actually just had to pull his child out of that school because they were teaching the trans stuff. So the rich can't avoid it. They create this culture and then it engulfs their children. And you see it with how many of their children wind up gay and trans and not having kids of their own. And the snake really does eat itself. And but that actually is our advantage. People call these rich elites. Well, not how I define elite. To me, elite people live good family lives. They know their neighbor. They're humble. They're the guy you want to hang out with, right? So it's not these rich people. So we actually have a great advantage. And I think you really you broke it down. Decadence destroys people, right? And decadence destroys the rich. And decadence is really destroying America, where people have been so enslaved by convenience that they don't know how to be free anymore. They have this golden cage that engulfs us all, and it's a great cage. Like, people don't know how good America is. We could go to the grocery store and get spices. They used to fight wars to get spices. People are poor and dying of obesity and diabetes because America is so decadent. And you can enjoy the rewards of that decadence, but if you fully embrace it, if you don't figure out what makes you strong, which is personal responsibility and taking control of your life,
Yep.
then it will destroy you.
Yep. 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 I mean, that is the big, I learned in recovery that you are where you are based on the decisions you make and actions you've taken. And that is so not part of our culture right now. Our culture is blame everybody for where you are in your life. You have no say in it. And that to me is like really tragic because when you start to own your stuff on where you are, you start to realize that the common denominator in all your problems are you. But we have to give our kids the critical thinking tools to be able to do that. And we also have to get closer to God. We allowed the media for the long, and I get that some people listening here aren't religious or spiritual. I totally respect that. You can believe whatever you want. I'm just talking about my belief system. And the more you get away from God, the more your anxiety goes up. And all these people getting all upset about the actions of God. They're always like, more people died in the name of God. Well, the communists killed a lot of people too. There was a ton of people died in China and Russia and Germany and all those different places. I don't want to do it. Hey, let's add it up, but I think it would be really a lot closer than you believe. And the more you get away from God, the more your anxiety goes up, the more you just start to get your depression goes up, and the closer you get to God, I tend to notice that those things go down. That's my opinion. And we took God out of everything. Now I understand there's a lot of things that upset people about God, and I would tell you those are the actions of man. Men did that. People did that, not God. That's my opinion. Any thoughts?
Yeah, well, the devil hijacks authority too. And if you're the devil on earth, the ultimate goal would be to hijack the authority of the word of God himself, right? And that's why we see so much pedophilia with the Catholic Church, right? Like bad people are actually drawn to that type of authority the same way they're drawn to the authority of politics, right? Because it's power, it's influence, it's status, it's access. They are drawn to these things. And then unfortunately, because there's so many bad people in these institutions, right? God is not an institution. Religion is an institution. But there's so many people in these institutions that are bad that that's what regular people have an experience with. Like I grew up in the Catholic Church and I was like, this stuff is nonsense. Like they would sing in Latin and they wouldn't teach us anything about the actual word of God. But what I would tell everyone is that you don't need the church to have a relationship with God. But if you pick up that book and start to read it and you start to have talks with God, even if you think it's silly at first, just have talks about what your problems are, about not what he can do for you, but how you wish you had the strength to do better. You wish you had the wisdom to know what to do. And the crazy thing happens is when you start to live like that, like for example, let's say you're driving in your car and you get really pissed because someone cuts you off and you start chasing them down the road and flipping them the bird. And later you sit there and you're praying and say, man, I really wish I didn't react that way.
I
Maybe
do that
that
all
wasn't
the time.
the best way to react. Well, the next time you're in that situation, now you spoke to God, so I wish I had the strength to not do that. Next time you're in that situation, you get that thought, oh man, I did just talk to God about this. Now, do you think you're going to chase them and give them the middle finger? Or do you think through that prayer, your actions will start to change? This stuff is so powerful, and you don't need that institution that hurt you, that institution that lied, that institution that wasted your time is not God. That's an institution. But God is just the creator, and you're connected to the creator. Your soul is connected to the creator. And you start to do these things I'm talking about, I'm telling you, you will feel your soul and its connection to the creator.
There's some really crazy shit that goes on to the point where you start to wonder, is that real? I see one of your tweets came out in July. Does Pepsi put aborted baby cells from the 1970s in their drinks? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I would never make such a claim because I avoid making claims, but I do ask those questions. Do they do that? And they did partner with a company, Cinemax, right? Not Cinemax, Cinemix. They partnered with a company, and it came out that they were doing research on flavor with aborted fetal cells, specifically a line of fetal cells. It was a baby that was aborted, I think, in the 1970s or 60s or something like that. And they've been cloning these cells from this aborted baby for decades. And they're
What?
using these cloned cells or reproduced cells
Mhm.
to test flavor. And Pepsi got caught being involved with this company. And then, of course, they said, don't worry, it had nothing to do with what we're doing here. And then they separated from the company. But me as someone who likes to ask questions, I would certainly like to ask that question.
That is crazy. I mean, we hear this stuff all the time, but I think people dismiss it because it's so dark and it's so crazy. And it's just nuts. I mean, we are in a spiritual war right now, right? I mean, we're battling sorcery at this point.
It's
And it's
it's
go on.
HEK 293, Heck 293. Look that up.
That's the flavor or whatever the ingredient they were using.
It's the line, the cell line that they
Yeah.
were messing around with allegedly. People have
I got a quick question. Is there different types of homeschooling? The reason I ask this is that I know this professional like poker chick that has like a lot of spare time during the day, and she homeschooled her kid, but she just went and picked up the curriculum. And I'm like, is that really homeschooling your kid if you just want to go pick up a curriculum and it was like all this paperwork where the kid just pretty much, I'm guessing, does it, turns it in, gets a grade, and then moves on forward?
Yeah, so there's all different types of homeschooling. Every parent that's new to homeschooling, I say, should look up what I call the core four. So you have classical education. I'll tell you what they are, and then I'll get into them. You have classical education, Montessori, Charlotte Mason, and unschooling. So classical education, there's a book. It's about 35 pages long, The Lost Tools of Learning by Dorothy Sayers. And this is the education that the rich and powerful have generally given their children over the last few centuries, which it breaks learning down into three phases of grammar, logic, and rhetoric. You have the grammar phase in early childhood, which are basically the rules of language and the rules of things, but words have meaning, right? You want your children to know that a word has a definition. So, for example, if you were on the Princeton debate team, the first thing they would make you do or teach you to do is you have to get your opponent to give a definition for a word that they're using. Because if you don't get your opponent to give a definition, your opponent will have the flexibility to keep bending the word, right?
Oh, I love that.
You make them define the word, and then you could hold them to that, and that gives you an advantage in the debate, right? So you have the grammar stage, then you have the logic stage, which is basic ABC logic plus the logical fallacies. This is why I teach this stuff, right? So ad hominem attack, straw man attack, how to identify manipulations within an argument, and in your own writing and your own speaking, how to structure something that is logically consistent. That's about 4th, 5th to 8th grade. Around 8th or 9th grade, you have the rhetoric phase. Now, people think they don't know what rhetoric it is, but if you've ever had an argument on Facebook or Twitter, you'll know why you need it. Because I always tell people, don't bring logic to a rhetoric fight because you will get shot, right? Don't bring a knife to a gunfight. That's rhetoric, what I did right there. Hope and change is rhetoric. We're going to build a wall is rhetoric, right? These are all things that people could connect to emotionally, that could persuade them in a certain direction. And that's the idea behind it. So this is what the managerial class is taught. They're taught how to manipulate emotions. Now, you could use rhetoric in a negative way, or you could use negative in a positive way. And then you have Charlotte Mason, which was an amazing woman. And her style is education through these amazing living stories. It's a lot of what I do with my books. Like you have the bear from Jekyll Island right here. It's kind of like living history, right? So you're teaching children their lessons through these living stories. And then also the idea that they need discipline, they need structure. So Charlotte Mason would say, when your children wake up, you actually want them to do a couple of chores and you want them to have responsibility. You have Montessori, which is the idea that your child's play environment could be structured in a way so that they're learning through what they're naturally doing. And you could have a music station, an art station, a block station. You could have a special stool that allows your child to stand up at the kitchen counter so they're tall enough, and then special knives that allow them to cut. But if they slip, I have these in my house, if they slip and get their skin, they won't cut their skin. So they could actually do all the things that we're doing in a safe way. And this is the idea behind Montessori. And then you have unschooling, which in my opinion is the most powerful form of education, which is the idea, by the way, you could read Charlotte Mason's writings and you could read the writings of Maria Montessori, strongly suggest all parents do. And then you have unschooling. You could read Free to Learn is a good book. So you have unschooling, which is the idea that you can follow the interest of your child. You could ask your child, or you just know from being around your child, what do you want to learn about? And then you could start teaching them what they want to learn about and embed the things you want them to learn within that. So for example, if they're learning about Pokemon, you could certainly embed mathematics into Pokemon. You could certainly embed reading and writing into Pokemon. And then of course you could take that a step further. So the example I like to give is, let's say your child shows an interest in photography. Well, you start to teach them the skills of photography. And then once they develop the skills, you start to guide them, guide and challenge. So you would say, all right, well, you're doing all this. What I would like you to do, your big project this school semester, is to start a seasonal photography business. So you know that come Christmas time, your aunt and your grandmother and mommy's best friend and whoever, they all send out these Christmas cards every year. What you're going to do is put together a presentation, and you're going to go to each one of them and let them know that you've started a business and you would like them to hire you to photograph their Christmas cards. And now you're teaching them how to be an entrepreneur and financial literacy and step by simply following what they were interested in the first place.
I love that. That is probably one of the best things I've ever heard.
No, I had a guy, one of my high school friends, his dad taught him how to cut hair, learn how to make money, was the cool kid in school, got invited everywhere because he was just learning instantly. Now he owns a couple of barber shops, but it was all over some high school thing. His dad was like, hey, you want to learn how, kind of saw some interest in cutting hair. The kid always wanted a haircut. He's like, why don't you learn how to do hair? Kids instantly killing it. And I was like, damn, why couldn't my dad see something like that in me and guide me towards something? I told him I wanted to be an architect. They told me, okay, God forbid I couldn't even do algebra. My parents should have told me no, you're not good enough for math.
Damn.
You should try to do this. You're better at this. Some parents just let their kids run with, oh, you want to be a brain surgeon? You're like, okay. And they run it. And I'm like, bro, there's no, you would never have done that. You need to guide your kids.
What were you good at?
That's my thing is I think my parents should have caught that early on for me. As a kid, you don't know what you're good at. I thought I was good at soccer. I was good at soccer. I'm not good at soccer. Look at other kids that were good at soccer. I think your parents know when I mean, your kids, you see your kids being good at anything right now where you could be like, oh, I could see my daughter she's more leaning towards math instead of English. I'm like, let's teach her more math. Let's get that ball rolling. I don't know. That's what
my daughter already did her first podcast. She loved it. She loved it. It's like it's this kind of battle between how much screen time's okay. But they'll go out, they'll do everything. We'll have activities, we'll go all day, and then when they want to chill, they want to get on their screen time, which I'm good for. I do want to teach them how to cook. I want to teach them how to fix stuff. That's what I want to do. My daughter's very funny.
So your daughter just did her first podcast and she's interested in that. So you could start teaching her about audio. You could start teaching her about videography. You could have her take a course on Canva and graphic design and how to put together thumbnails. You could have her read a book like Crypto Copywriting, which isn't about cryptocurrency. It's a great book on the art of writing headlines that grab people's attention. So you take that thing that she's interested in and you start to teach her all of these ancillary skills that go around it. And 10 years from now, she might not want to do podcasting anymore, but she will know graphic design. She will know about audio. She will know about all the ancillary things that she learned. And you do that just by following her interest.
I love it, dude. I'm all about all of this. Like, I really, yeah, man, you just kind of watch, my parents, God bless them, they did a great job. I flunked first grade right out the gate. I'm sure they're looking for store credit, looking for the receipt so they get store credit. And but luckily this kind of thing came along and it's like literally the only thing I could do, which is talking. So I'm monitoring my children. It's like this kind of fine line between letting them find themselves and letting them be themselves versus, forcing them into something. So that becomes like Eastern values, Western values, right? Eastern values, a lot of, let's say, immigrant families are much more controlling of what their kids get into, math, science, all that stuff. Western is kind of like be yourself, find yourself. It's kind of that fine line because I think like a big problem in China right now is that they force people to do things they don't like to do. Like that's communism. Like you're going to do this job, you're going to do that job. And I'm kind of like, I don't think that's the best way to thrive. And I think that's a big reason why, regardless of what you think about China, I've been there a bunch of times. I don't think they're as bad as everybody wants them to believe they are, but there's a reason why they steal a lot of our technology because they've just kind of like got rid of all the creative people. And if you're not allowed to do the things you do well, you might not create the greatness. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, even with the problems in the school system, there is a culture that dates back to the origins of America. There is nowhere in the world that rivals American innovation, American creativity. And I read a lot about these people. Like one of the best people I've ever read about, Henry Ford. Everyone should read the autobiography of Henry Ford. One of the best reads I've ever done. And you had Henry Ford and Thomas Edison, and Tesla came here to invent all of his stuff because there is just this culture of rugged individualism, of creativity that you could forge your own path. And there is nothing in the world like the freedom to know that you can create something and then you could forge your own path and build it into something. And I've lived that in my life, right? That's how you start a publishing house and a homeschool company. And one of my big goals over the next 24 months, but knowing how I operate, I'm probably going to be 12 months, is I'm actually going to be starting a physical storefront because I've done really well. I've done very well for myself on the internet, and I've built internet-based businesses, but my next step is physical land and building something that's physical, that's real, that I'm interacting in real life with people every day. We're going to start a storefront. We are going to sell local products. It's all going to be from our local farmers and other local craftsmen and businesses. I'm going to handpick the best businesses from around the country. We're going to stock our store with truly organic, non-GMO, not processed products. And we are going to build the world that we want. And people in other countries they don't think this way because you need to be someone's cousin to get a license to do this type of stuff. But in America, even though it's been hijacked to a large degree, we still are that country that came from that idea that you could be the rugged individualist. And for anyone that says you can't be, I'm living proof that you can be, right? And you are living proof that you can be. You've built your comedy, you built your podcast, right? Anyone could take what they're interested in, what they believe in, and run with it. And that is deeply embedded into what it means to be an American. So I think it's the best place to live on earth.
I mean, XG's taken his love of doing drugs and going to festivals and turned it into a vlog. Good for you,
what more do you
XG.
want?
You've done that now. You've done that now. And you've talked about, your parents didn't do this or that. And, now maybe you do what you do. But if you looked at me when I was 26 years old, I was retarded. I spent my life getting drunk, chasing girls, and just being an idiot. That's, I didn't take anything too seriously. And then, the funny thing is you get married, you have kids, and your priorities start to change. And I started to take my life really seriously. And when my son was born, I grew up in a culture of alcohol. I said my son will not grow up in that culture. I haven't had a drink in years because my children will have a role model that doesn't engage in bad behavior. So I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I work my ass off, and I started doing that every day. In fact, when I first started, all I said was I was working a full-time job, and I said I'm going to commit 1 hour a night to trying to build a side hustle. No matter what, I sat down
I love it.
a night and I started building, and 1 hour quickly turned to 4, quickly turned to 5. And before I know it, I was quitting my job and I was doing what I do now, and more opportunities come. There is no limit to when you can start pursuing what your rugged individualism is. And don't think you don't have skills. You do. You just have to figure out what that is, figure out what you're passionate about, and just attack it and give it time. In 5 years, you'd be a radically different person than you are now. In fact, if you spoke to me 7 years ago, like I said, you'd say this guy's retarded.
I'd never think you were retarded, dude. You're well spoken.
You're like, I think you're retarded now.
So we get to this thing. It's becoming more and more obvious that we are being controlled at every level. We have this BlackRock, and Johnny and I have another show called Cash Daddies. We have a guy on that show that is a normie, and he doesn't believe that BlackRock has as much influence as we all believe, because according to him, that would be illegal. Johnny, what is that exactly is his stance?
Well, BlackRock has funds that track certain markets, and there are rules about how, so that it's the suggestion that they pick and choose which stocks to have in the fund. That's just not how those funds work. Is his point. So what influence could they really exert? He doesn't think they're activists in the companies that they are invested in. Is what it boils down to. So
like they're all just doing it for business, for actual money.
I mean, it would be, you can't go to let's say you're tracking, I don't know, the top 100 in the chip industry or something. I don't know if there are 100 big companies in the chip industry, but for example, you can't say to company number 4 or whatever, like, hey, you're off the list.
Okay.
Silicon. You're off the list because we don't, unless you do X or whatever. You can't do that because you're tracking the top 100 companies, and they're going to be the top 100 companies no matter. Do you get what I'm saying? So that's his take, and I understand. I guess.
So I ask this all the time. Like, when Larry Fink says we're going to force behaviors, what do you think that means?
Yeah, let's talk about Larry Fink, and then let's talk about how BlackRock operates from a systems level. So Larry Fink is the CEO, and as Sam said, he's openly talked about that they govern behavior, and they practice something called environmental social governance. This isn't a conspiracy. You can go watch videos of Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, talking about this. So environmental is the climate change agenda. Social is the global homo agenda. It's just what it is. Right? So,
global homo agenda.
The environmental and the social agendas, and then governance. And if you look at what that is, they say that we will govern behavior, right? So if you don't push those two agendas, they govern behavior. And they partner with the Human Rights Campaign, which gives the majority of companies, especially the S&P 500, a social credit score. I forget what they call it, corporate equality index score, right? Again, you can go look this up. All these companies file these scores, but basically it's file these reports, and they get a score from the Human Rights Campaign, and it's basically their social credit score. And so BlackRock's looking at that, and they're saying, if you don't have a high enough social credit score, then we're going to govern you. But what does that mean, right? What does it mean to govern? Well, BlackRock gets people's retirement money, right? People give them their 401k and their Roth IRA and whatever it might be. And then they take that money and they invest into all of these different companies, right? If you look into the ownership of all these companies, BlackRock owns like 15% of everything, like BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. It's like 15%. This is where their power is, right? So they get their people through the shares. They have a proxy vote, right? So a proxy vote means it might be your money, it might be your 401k, but the investment firm, right, they actually get your vote, right? You don't get to vote on, Coca-Cola or whatever. BlackRock does. So they get their people put onto the corporate boards of these companies. And then the boards appoint the CEO. And the CEO, who's usually some MBA from Harvard, who's been trained in how to maximize profit. He's not necessarily like a founder who has some ideological agenda here or there. He's just going to where the money is. In fact, he's legally responsible to do that. So they get their people on the board, they appoint the CEO, and then the CEO is told that part of your responsibility is to do this ESG. And if the board doesn't like what he's doing, well, that's where the governance, at least the threat of the governance is there. They could say, we don't like the job you're doing here, and we can try to replace you as CEO. And these guys are looking at, $20 million bonuses. So it's really just a mechanism of their control. And that's what they mean by governance.
Can't hear you, Sam.
Johnny, any thoughts on that?
Well, no, I mean, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it, but I just don't. No, I'm kind of up the middle on this because I think probably more of what they do is through their, to me anyway, through their their sustainable investing funds and all the bullshit they do on the side more because how many of these companies do they own enough of to force someone on this, like, to actually vote the CEO in? Do we know that? Like,
but Johnny, can I ask you something?
Yeah, you're asking me to represent Howie's argument here, by the way, just to be clear.
But do they automatically have to invest in these companies?
Yeah, if they have an iShares ETF that tracks what certain sectors, there's so many iShares ETFs. Then yeah, I mean it's based on whatever those top X number of companies are in that space.
Can they control what gets into that iShare?
Well, I mean, it's like
that?
I'll give you. Okay, hold on. Let me get some. Let me just see. Okay, like an S&P 500 ETF. The S&P 500 is always going to be the S&P 500. They have no power over that. But I know that for the big ones, the ones that track these markets, they got to have the biggest companies in the markets now, and that's where all the huge money is. And they also have things that track like gold trusts and bond markets, and they're as big as it gets. So if they just want to put money into stuff and influence things that way, they can do it that way too. It's just when you have all the money, you can do whatever you want, really. But,
okay.
Yeah, you have to ask Howie.
The biggest mechanism of their control is just that they're able to manipulate the boards, and the boards have power. Now they might not have complete power, but when you're the CEO and you have part of your board, maybe 15% of the board that might want to come for your job, right? And these people, they have a lot of leverage and influence in these companies, right? You're more than likely to at least capitulate a little bit to what the board wants. And then you can get to how much control they have in individual companies. But when they say governance, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about using the board to basically threaten the jobs of the CEOs, and the CEOs are responsible for running the company. So that's really where their leverage comes in.
And it says here in large cap companies, BlackRock will typically hold between 5 and 10% of outstanding shares. So, they have, it's not like they own half of it. It's like 5 to 10, which is a lot. Don't get me wrong. But I think in these smaller mid cap companies, they might have in excess of 10%, and that's where they could really wield their power. But when you have it over the entire market, I don't know. It's power beyond belief. But what he's trying to say is that I don't think they wield their power by selecting what gets into the funds as much as what Brett's describing here.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. If you type in top institutional investors and you look up almost any company, you'll find that it's almost always BlackRock,
Yeah, of
Vanguard,
course.
and
Yeah.
State Street. And when you look at their control, I mean, like I said, usually what I find when I look up individual companies, it's around 15% they want.
It's like
Then
Apple. They got 6% of Apple right now. Looks like.
Apple's a big one, right? So, if you took it like some of these companies where they have 15, Vanguard is 15, State Street is 10, right? That's 40%. You only need 50% to completely control the CEO. And then, they're making connections on these boards. So it's like, it's a lot of leverage. It's not complete control, but most of what the world is, everyone thinks conspiracies are just outright like there's a central command center, but a lot of the times it's sticks and carrots and just leverage. And they have a lot of leverage.
Sam, you're muted again.
Sorry, guys. I want to end on a positive note. I love something you said earlier about figure out what you're good at and figure out how you can make money on it. I've been preaching this to anyone that would listen to me, especially stand-up comics who are my age or a little younger, even a little older, that are kind of like trying to figure out how they're going to make money. The internet's a great way, but can you go just into a little bit about like, what do you think is a great process to kind of decide like what you'd be good at and some of the steps they could take?
Well, like I said, I kind of talked about my own journey a little bit, but I was a good writer, so I started writing books. I was an educator, so I started a homeschool company. I homestead, I grow my own food, produce my own meat, do all that stuff. So now I'm starting a country store where I'm going to partner with other people in the local area, right? And these are all very different things, but I'm taking something that's kind of in my wheelhouse and I'm just running with it. So, whatever's in your wheelhouse, whether you're good at music, whether you're good at art, whatever you're good at, right? There's people, you can take whatever that is and run with it. Some people are obsessed with snow globes, right? It doesn't really matter. You really can take expertise in anything and turn it into a business. So figure out what that is, commit some time to it, even if it's an hour a day. And maybe for that hour, you sit there and do literally nothing. Okay, well, that was 1 hour you needed to sit there doing literally nothing before you figured out, what you need to be doing. So that it's a process.
Here, I got a quick one for anybody.
I love it.
My homie's really hard into reselling things. Right now, he's at AMC buying these popcorn buckets that people in like small hometowns, they don't have it in AMC. He's selling these popcorn buckets for like triple the price. And it's just this thing where he's telling me, he's like, bro, there's forums, there's like this whole like business about reselling. So it's like, it's just crazy where there's money everywhere. If you just find it, you can go get it.
Yeah,
I totally agree. What are you into?
Yeah, if you like popcorn buckets, there's people out there that also want popcorn buckets. So
I'm just telling you, man, it's like there's a market for everything, and you just got to figure out what is your thing. And if you find stuff you love to do, and it's just like, I know, especially my people in their 40s and their 50s, the whole thing is you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I'm just telling you, man. If you just apply this to what Brett is saying, I'm telling you, man, you will, in a year, you'll laugh at how far you've grown. Just start somewhere. Build. Yes. Whether there's too many conspiracy shows, too many sports shows, too many whatever. Yeah. But there's not enough good ones. There are a lot of great ones on them. We love them. We love featuring them on the show, but that doesn't mean there isn't a space for you out there that you could go in there, find a space, work really hard on, selling stuff on the internet, becoming a handyman. Like we've been talking about that forever. Guys and women who can fix stuff. There's a big future out there for you right now with all this stuff going on in the world. Figure out what you love to do, what is a market, and how you can get into and dominate. And everything takes time, but you can do it. You really can do it. And I just want you guys to believe in yourself, because why not you? Why all these other people? Why not you? Why can't you go and make money doing things you love. Why do you have to go? And listen, if you like your corporate job, God bless you. I'm super happy for you. This isn't for you. This is for the people that feel trapped, feel like they ain't making money, feeling that their future isn't bright. Dude, be your own CEO. I'm just telling you. I mean, Xavier Guerrero is a great example, dude. Came on the show, and now he's got his travel vlog, and now he's got his other shows, and now he's like the El Chapo of Mexican podcasting. You got to go through him. You got to go through XG if you want to have a podcast. And
Mando.
look, dude, he just figured out what he was great at, and we're still trying to figure that out. And then he's doing it, and that XG is an illegal in this country, living the American dream. And I think you guys could do it too if you want. Brett, this has been a great show. Thank you so much for coming on. We really do appreciate it. I'm glad we finally made it happen. You were a great interview. One more time, tell our listeners where you can find them. They can find you.
Yes, you could find me at www.classicallearner.com. That's classicallearner.com. All my stuff is there. My books are there. Our homeschooling is there. The little social media icons at the top are all there. But I'm pretty much Classical Learner or Cubs to Bears books on everything. It's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. So check me out. Again, the icons at the top, classicallearner.com.
I'm going to get some of your books, man. I'm very excited, honored that you came on. You're one of the best content creators out there. I love your vibe. I love your style. And thank you for doing Tinfoil Hat. We hope you had a great time. Let's break down this episode. All right, let's get into it. What'd you guys think of Brett? I thought he was great.
And I'm nervous to have kids. I don't know if to put them in school, not in school. It's too much work.
Oh my God. I think that would be the reality show. Xavier Guerrero homeschooling his children.
I could
That's
do Spanish.
a show. You guys learn together? Your kid?
No. Not now. You got me thinking. At my day, like on day one, you take them to me and I teach them Spanish. They go to you, you teach them history. On day 7, they go to John and he learns English. You know what I mean? Everybody's got a day. No, that's not going to work.
Yeah. Am I getting paid for this?
Well, I mean, everybody has a day. Everybody has a day to have everybody's kids. Like on day 1, they learn Spanish. They come to XG's house. On day 2, they go to Johnny's house and they learn how to write English and how to pronounce things, unlike me and Sam. On day 3, they go to Sam's and they learn about conspiracies in the government.
I like that. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about sending your kids around to different people.
Yeah, I don't know. Really I would pay good money to watch you homeschool your kid, and then eventually by the end of the season, he's homeschooling you. No, Dad, this is how you
maybe.
do it.
Would you are your kids getting homeschooled? Any chance of that?
I would love that. I don't know. I'm going to call a friend of mine and see if I could just send them to a school where a bunch of homeschooling's going on, or do we actually have to have one of the parents there? That's what I would love to.
Gotta get around some other kids, though. It's what XG said during the episode is, and maybe it's different today, but you could pick a homeschooling kid out of a lineup. Like whenever somebody came in from homeschooling or from a private school into the public high school, like you could just tell they weren't socialized. They were weird. And maybe it's different now, but that would scare me. I think to me, socialization is as big a part of your education as anything.
I'm just telling you, I mean, like I really do believe, like the school that my kids go to, I asked her point blank, do you do woke shit? She goes, no, we don't do anything.
No, yeah. Now, if it's a real school, like with people, I just want more than a couple of people around. You know what I mean?
I just feel so bad for kids coming up in poor families that they have to be just indoctrinated into this dog shit.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I been indoctrinated? I don't think so. My parents would have. If you just gotta be on guard. You gotta be vigilant as a parent. And talk about to your kids about what they learned. You know, if you're in that position, like, what did you talk about at school today? Get the curriculum from the teachers, find out, and straighten that shit out. Because that would piss me the fuck off if I found out they were talking about some crazy shit like that after. I just don't get why they shouldn't have shit to do with any of that. And I don't, where I'm from, they don't. That's not as big of a deal. But in these cities, man, you got to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah. And what Johnny was saying, now that I think about it, I can't imagine being homeschooled your whole life and all of a sudden you got to go to a 4-year college. Yeah, imagine that.
Well,
All of a sudden
in
you're in the
defense of
mix.
homeschools, I'm just going to tell you, they have these things where they get them out and about doing stuff. And they like what
Yeah.
I think most people think. I'm not saying what Brett's program is. I don't know. I know my friend, she's got a whole bunch of people together to do homeschooling. And they all just come together. And then they'll do like this week we're going to the forest and we're gonna discover the forest, but they all do it together. So I don't know. We'll see, dude. We'll see. I mean, you just gotta get them into the right school where they teach them reading and writing and not like how many genders, if I have
Ugh.
yeah. What
So
was
dumb,
it?
dude.
What was that funny meme? Like if I have 147 genders and 550 pronouns, how much climate change do I have?
It's disgusting, man.
Yeah, it's
So
all
gross.
things to keep us all
Dude.
stupid.
You know what I do love? I do love that there's people making books for kids to start off. Like when I was reading the titles on those books, I was like, oh, this is like the perfect.
Hit the links, dude. Hit the links.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're so right, dude. Also, it makes me remember when I was growing up, Sam, and probably the same when you were growing up. I'm sure, actually, because he's around the same age. It was a big deal that the teachers couldn't talk to you about religion, right? But now they're allowed to talk about all this other crazy shit. It used to be you kept politics and religion they just weren't allowed at all in public schools. And now you have these teachers, these activists who are trying to, I mean, that used to be a foundational principle of education, public schooling, was that you didn't bring politics and religion into it. And what is this if not modern religion, this crazy shit they're talking? Oh, they're fucked.
Yeah.
It's just so fucked.
But here's the problem that I get so mad with my friends because I know they think I'm a crazy person. And I'm just like, there is history. We're drawing from history. This is what they did over here. This is what they did over here. And this is what they did over here. They did all this. Okay. This is how they imploded from inside. And you just don't understand that because when you get a country that's at a place that has the wealth that America has, you just have to be that. You just raise children who have no understanding of work, of having to fight for something. Everything's handed to them. And it just shish kebabs their brains. So now, again, like we talk every time, you just see these kids picking up these weird kind of battles to give them purpose in their life. And it sucks. Like the worry about trans kids, like the worry that we should have sex ed. If people really understood how dark sex ed is. What's his name? Kingsley Edwards. What's his name?
I don't know who that is.
Kingsley Edwards. What's his name? He was the guy who did Edward Kingsley. Let's do Edwards Kingsley. There it is. This piece of shit. The guy who basically created
Edward Kingsley? I don't see that. Oh, Kinsey.
Kinsey, yeah. Kinsey. Yeah, that guy. That Edwin Kinsey.
Alfred Kinsey.
Alfred Kinsley. That guy's a piece of shit. Alfred Kinsley.
Kinsley.
Kinsley. Yeah, you're right. Kinsley. Yeah.
Kinsey. What? There's no L in there. Kinsey. Can't talk with me.
You talking to that guy? I mean, that guy's the biggest piece of shit on planet Earth.
Yes. There's a whole show about him on Showtime,
comes from a pedophile.
Did you watch that show on Showtime? It's called what was it?
Trying to make him look like a good guy.
Yeah. That Kinsey show on Showtime. Yeah. What was it called? Oh hell, what was it called? Masters of Sex. It was called.
Yeah, it's so disgusting what they tried to do. It's so disgusting.
There's a movie about him too with like Ray Fiennes, I think.
Yeah, trying to make him look like a good guy. It's like suck a dick, bitch.
No. I'm sorry. It's Liam Neeson. He plays Kinsey.
Yeah. Suck a dick, bitch. Suck a dick.
Yeah, he sucks.
Guys, check out SamTripoli.com. Go to SamTripoli.com.
And you can find all my dates there. There's none up there right now. September 10th, I'm going to be live at the Comedy Store doing my Comedy Chaos, Bang Bang Pow. Okay. We got Murder lineup, the best of the best. Then you go to samtripoli.com. We got all my contents there. All my shows, all my contents on samtripoli.com. All my content, I'm putting out 3-4 episodes a week. I'm premium content. We go deep all the time. Keep going. Cash Daddies is a awesome investment. If you go to patreon.com/cash daddies, you're going to get the good stuff, dude. You're going to really get the good stuff. For $20 a month, man, you get daily financial advice from Howie Dewey. And Johnny, tell us about, there's a community on there, right? Of people talking.
It's very much a community. That's a good way to describe it. It's, all of the people who subscribe to the Patreon are on there sharing ideas with each other, running them by Howie. But it's amazing how many great ideas have just come from that community, and they're all helping each other, educating each other, very beginner friendly. I think that's important. But also if you're someone with some experience investing, it's valuable as well. So yeah, highly recommend it. Howie's been on fire over the past couple.
So go there. You can get t-shirts there. You can get you're going to be able to get the second episode of Chaos Twins soon. You can go get my cameos, my gold and silver. We love gold and silver. SamTripoli.gold. Check that out. Rife Technology. A bunch of you guys check that out. You guys got that rocking. AquaCure hydrogen brown gas. Harley Ray. We got the candles, the crystals. Check that out. What else we got? Yeah, man. I mean, the hydrogen brown gas is a great way to keep yourself looking young. I don't even think I said on the last one, but chemical free body. Every day I take those supplements every single day. I love it. If I don't take it, I don't feel good. It's got everything you need. All the supplements you need, energy, power, lose weight, all that right there at Chemical Free Body. Click the banner. Okay. We got Joel Staley, lose weight. EMF rocks. Dude, a great way to fight that dirty electricity, man. Prometheus, if you're looking for a decentralized website. And then our good friends at Brain Supreme, which is next level shit for your microdosing needs. Anything else, guys?
Hit that like button, subscribe, and go to Extreme Marks the Spot on YouTube, and go follow my fishing blog, please.
And then be on the lookout for Sam for my special quiet. Johnny, sorry, anything for you?
It keeps doing that. You went deep sea fishing, actually, is that it?
Yeah, deep sea fishing. I caught some yellowtail, some marlin. It was a good ass time. I'm not gonna lie.
Cool, dude. I'll check that out. Yeah, I'm just on Twitter at Johnny Witter. We talk a lot of conspiracy. People send me cool ideas for a broken sim there too.
All right, guys. Thank you, guys. Enjoy these highlights.
Here's a clip from the latest broken sim. The Taliban had this big military parade, and they just showed off all the American equipment that Biden left behind over there.
It's so sad.
I mean, it's sad, but it's also just hilarious. Look at all this shit they left behind. Look back there, dude. There's Chinooks, helicopters. Oh, no, those aren't Chinooks. Those are, well, maybe. Some kind of like combat helicopters. I don't know. I don't know if those are American, actually. Look at this. Isn't this crazy, dude? This is the Taliban. These were like farmers and goat fuckers. Then now they've got like legit military equipment, hardcore military equipment. Anyway, isn't that just I mean,
it's embarrassing, and to me it's done on purpose.
Of course it is.
It's done on purpose just because eventually down the line they're gonna want to go back.
Oh, they'll be shooting at Americans with that shit,
and the Americans will be lighting them up with that. That's exactly what's gonna happen.
Yep. We talked about the DNC. There's some talk that I'll try to blow through these. That the person they wanted working the debate for ABC. This Disney executive, Dana Walden, has this like decades-long friendship with Kamala Harris. And so they're talking about like how can you have that person who's producing the debate be somebody who has Trump's like what, how are we supposed to? That's why I don't want to do ABC, because she's best friends with the person who's running the debate.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And it's just like, she's not going to do a debate, bro, because she'll get lit the fuck up. And it's so
Oh, you know, I think they've scheduled one, right? Haven't they?
Dude, there was supposed to be a Fox one. She hasn't agreed to that. He won't do ABC.
Really?
Why don't they just do one on Twitter?
I know people, dude, that really think that she will
destroy him.
Destroy him.
They're just idiots.
That
dude.
really think that.
It's dude, Tulsi Gabbard lit her up so badly she dropped out.
And that's who's training Trump. That's who he's like sparring with is Tulsi Gabbard. That's who they hired to come in and trade blows with him.
That's unbelievable to me.
This story, we talked about it briefly on Tinfoil, or maybe on one of our other shows. Disney, there's this
dude. This is
NYU,
the craziest story.
It's crazy,
and it's so desperate. They're just I mean, like he's not even asking for that much money.
Yeah, let me just read the head so people know what we're talking about. Disney, there was this NYU doctor who died of an allergy in one of their parks, and they're suing him. And Disney is getting this thing thrown out because he consented to their terms when he signed up for a Disney Plus. Can
you read the terms that they're saying?
Well, I just know that whenever you sign up for shit like that, it's like, hey, you agree not to sue whatever the company is. It's typically, that's the standard language. And they all throw it in there just to cover their asses. And they're using that because his death from the result of something happened at a Disney park. They're saying his agreement to the terms and conditions in South Park, we have to give them credit. They were on this decades ago. Remember that episode where they're like, you sign your life over when you clicked on the Apple, the iTunes
That's
terms
so
of service?
crazy to me.
Terms of service.
That's so crazy to me.
Unbelievable. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable to me. But that's why you pay for big lawyers.
100%. Yeah.
Right?
This is the Matthew Perry thing. I just wanted to say too. He had 6 to 8 shots a day, $55,000 a month in ketamine. That's how much he was using ketamine. $55,000 a month, 6 to 8 shots a day.
Unbelievable, dude. I mean, like you're dancing the dance, dude. You're dancing the fucking dance. You're just dancing the fucking dance.
Here's a brief, just a funny little example of how woke culture is infiltrating the art scene even more. Last month, Dublin's National Wax Museum was under fire for a distasteful figure of Sinead O'Connor, which was placed in the Star Wars section for some reason. That's just kind of funny. Now, Seattle's Museum of Pop Culture is facing criticism because they have a Kurt Cobain, the Nirvana exhibition there. They wrote in the description of Kurt Cobain that he unalived himself.
Well, what?
They couldn't say he killed himself or suicide because those are trigger words.
Okay.
He unalived
And are
himself.
they mad that they're even saying that?
Well, people are like, this is ridiculous, obviously. I mean, like, what the fuck is... we're playing word games now. I mean, I'll just say...
are they mad because it's supposed to be a kind of like... a celebration of Nirvana, and they're bringing that up.
The people who are mad are like us. Like, what the fuck is this gobbledygook? Like,
unalive themselves. You gotta say that on YouTube.
There it is, right there. Look, you see it? Kurt Cobain unalived himself at 27.
27 years old.
It's crazy. It's
right?
tragic.
Look how old he looked. He looked like 40, dude.
Yeah, I mean, he lived a hard one, dude.
But how about the fact that, that's YouTube? That's what YouTube has done to our society, that now we are self-censoring everywhere now, so that we're constantly under YouTube's like terms of service in regular time. Hey, dude, he unlived himself. No, dude, he suicided himself.
It is, you're right.
So Johnny,
it's probably on purpose,
right? Have you seen that? Like, Google might get broken up.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hat, tinfoil hat, tinfoil.